Welcome to eTree's Enhancements and welcome to part 2 of CZ75 shadow conversion. Now, in this part, if you plan on attempting this is not for people who don't understand the firearm to begin with. You need to be able to understand how the firearm works in order to be able to do this properly. So if you don't understand what you're doing, please just stop here and don't do this, or do plenty of research beforehand. I do go into detail of exactly what I'm doing, but if you screw this up, you're going to have to start over. At least if you're doing it the way that I'm doing, which is a cost-saving measure. You could potentially avoid this whole hassle and just get a Cajun Gun Works adjustable sear to solve this problem, make it a lot simpler. The hammer install still is a little bit more complex, but the hardest part is actually fitting the sear to the safety. If you do plan on doing this, make sure you watch this video thoroughly and you know exactly what's going on. Otherwise, please do not attempt this. And if you just feel better going and buying the Cajun Gun Works adjustable sear, then go ahead, but that will definitely increase the price of the conversion substantially. But anyway, without further ado, let's go ahead and jump in and start with the frame. Now, of course, I do have to insert a disclaimer here. This video is not exactly a how-to. This is what I did to convert my CZ75 into a shadow model. I am not responsible for anything that happens. You are in charge of your firearm. You know what you're doing to it. And if you don't, then take it to a competent gunsmith.
Okay, now the next step will be to continue with the hammer itself. For this, we will be using a shadow hammer from CZ Custom, which is part number 10263, and it is narrowed. The standard CZ75's non-shadow model actually has a narrower hammer than the other ones. You can see there's these little cuts, and it's the same width on the frame, it's just the slide that's thinner in this area. So they have to cut it and then refinish it, and that's what CZ Custom does. These are like $45 from their website. All right, moving on. So of course you'll need your frame, which we left the hammer in. We didn't remove it. To remove it, you need to push this pin out. Just a punch lightly will push this pin out. There will be a point where you'll see some resistance because it's hitting the little spring right here for the detent. So I would put your finger on the back side and just give it a little extra force. There we go. You don't have to remove it all the way. It can just stay there and chill. And then you come on the right side, push this pin out, and it'll just slide out. You can set that pin aside and then pull straight up, and the hammer will come out. Everything else. Now we can just set the frame aside. So the main difference between this hammer, which is the factory one, and the CZ Shadow hammer is these hooks right here. You can see that the hooks themselves are a lot larger than on the CZ Shadow models. So moving on, you need a punch. We will be removing these pins right here, which are actually staked in, so they're kind of pretty difficult to remove from what I've seen. I've never personally done it, so this is my first attempt. We'll find out how difficult it actually is. Use the bench block and hammer away. I'm gonna pick the side that's indented the farthest in, as that'll be easier. In this case, this side would be the easiest. Let's give this a try. And it's out. So you can set the disconnector aside. Save this pin as we're going to use it. I do want to keep them in the right place. So this one's going to be for the disconnector. So I'll set it over here with the disconnector. And then, so we'll set that one aside. And then we're going to try the other side. And it's out. Now, set this old hammer aside that we won't be needing. Grab the new hammer, and this is going to be fun. Looks like this side would be best. I don't think it matters which way the pin goes in, as long as you can get it to go through. This is going to be fun. All right, got the need in those. This is mainly just to hold the pin while we slam it in. Try and go in a little slow. That way we can make sure that it felt like it went through slightly. It's going through. Perfect. All right. At this point, I can start putting this in to make sure you're in the right orientation. Yes, that would suck if you don't get it in the right orientation. I'd have to give it a little bit more. Oh, I guess that was too far. All right. So there. Let's give it a little bit of love so it can come out. I'm not going to be able to get it in. It's a little too far. Perfect. Now, here's the tricky part. There we go. That's in. Let's finish punching this through. So that's that part. Now let's go with the disconnector. It's good. This will go in. It will not. A bit more of a love tap. Now as far as which side has to come out, I don't think it matters, or what direction. It doesn't seem like there's very much of a difference. Made it almost all the way through. I'm gonna do it on the vise so that I don't go too far. The vise will actually stop. And there we go. Have a shadow hammer with all the accessories now for the CZ75. Now I'm gonna go ahead and stake these, and I'm not gonna do this on camera. There's a video from Work the Trigger that I'll put in the description on how to stake them. I can't do it here because my hard surface is off the camera, so we'll just skip that part and continue. So they are staked. They're not pretty, but they'll do the job. Plus they're enclosed, so it's not like they're gonna come out anyway, but that just verifies and makes sure that it's not gonna come out at all. The one thing that I do want to do, which you guys might make fun of because of the tool that I'm gonna be using, and that is, this is a Lansky knife sharpener, and I'm just gonna go over it, smooth out any high spots. This is technically 1000 grit. Just getting rid of any high spots because this has been recoated, and we can see that it's only really the outside, a little bit of material coming off on the pin itself. Few high spots on the pins, which is what we're trying to knock down. This rear pin got sanded down, so it was sticking out. And then on this side, front pin got sanded down because it was sticking out. Now I used a 600 stone and then moved on to 1000, and this is smooth now. It's not flat, but it's a lot closer than what it should be, and that'll be enough. You don't need anything extra. So at this point, we can take our frame and drop in the hammer. We can take our hammer pin, gotta line it up, stick it in, it's a punch, and then use that same punch to push in this little guy. That puts it in, and that's now inside of it. Now, at this point, you pretty much start the reassembly. Let's get this guy out of the way. I don't believe we'll need it anymore. Next thing on the shadow install will be the hammer spring, which as stated was a 15-pound hammer spring from CZ Custom Green. I believe Cajun Gun Works 15-pound hammer spring is gold, if I'm not mistaken, but I'm really not sure. This is a 15-pound spring. I'm not exactly sure if this is true, the correct spring. I couldn't find anything on CZ's website over a different hammer spring, but this will have to do, and I mean, it's gonna improve the double action anyway, so definitely not a bad thing. Now, the next part in the install is gonna be installing the sear gauge back in. So there's gonna be a lot of install and removal, so we'll skip plenty of those, but for now, this one, we'll install the sear gauge, drop it in. You have to push it slightly back to get into place. Take your safety and start running it in. At this point, you have to clear that little spring, so sometimes they need help or sometimes you can just push it through. In my case, looks like I will be needing some assistance from a punch. Come on, there we go. So this one's in, rotating. At this point, we gotta install the right side safety, which goes straight up, sort of. All right, pushes down, push this one to the right orientation where it'll line up with the other safety, maybe someday. There we go. I believe at this point it's the detent itself that's stopping us, which you have to push back right here. That's in. Let me push the spring over to catch the slot. It's in, and there you go. You won't be able to activate the safety because the hooks themselves are smaller. It's not that the actual hooks themselves are smaller. It's more like the land where the sear rests. This section of it is higher, but continue on where we left off. The next step would be to fit the sear. Because the engagement of this new hammer is different, the sear will actually be pushed back slightly. So because the sear is pushed back slightly, it actually gives you a shorter break. Because of that, we need to basically file down either the safety or the sear. The safety would be the easiest because you just pull the safety out and you file it down and put it back in. But there is a slight curvature to the part where the safety engages, so I don't want to mess with that. And to be honest, even the safety is more expensive than the sear, so we're just going to do the sear. Now I'm going to do this assembly just to get to the sear, pull the sear out. And then I'm gonna reassemble the sear, and I'm gonna show you the process, but I'm only gonna show it once because I don't wanna keep doing it over and over again, because I'm gonna have to put it back in, try it again, pull it back out, put it back in, you know, you get the idea. So we'll do it once and then we'll go with that.
So I wanted to take my time and explain a little bit more of what's going on up close. So this is a picture of the sear and the safety disengaged currently on a safety model. This is the sear, and this is the safety. You can see there's a little shiny section of the safety where it normally rides against the sear itself to prevent it from rotating. And in this next picture, you can see the safety has been activated and the sear can no longer move. You can see the little block has now moved under the sear. That is the little section of the sear on the underside that needs to be filed down in order for it to fit. You could potentially just do the top of the safety because it's easier, but the safety itself is actually more expensive. So we're going to go with the cheaper route, and that is going to take us longer time, but it's going to yield better results if we were to screw it up for whatever reason.
I'm going to pull the sear out, and we have to take that pin out. Pull the sear out and the sear spring. Set the spring aside, and then yeah, a little shiny part right there. That's the part you gotta file. This sits, if you were looking at it from the left side, this is the part that engages the safety. This is the part that engages hammer. And this is the part that touches the trigger bar. Basically rotates it to release the hammer. So you really wanna go even here. There's plenty of material that has to come off on mine. So I'll show you what I'm doing. In this case, I'm gonna set it down, get it as even as possible. Best tool here is I would probably Sharpie this, just so you can have a black surface that you file, so you can get an idea of how you have to hold the file to get everything even. So there, I took off all the black while doing so. So that's how I have to hold it. And you really have to make sure you don't overshoot this, or you won't have a safety anymore. Especially with these hooks being shorter, having the right safety matters. And these sear cages don't actually sit still. You can, when you put it on safe and you pull the trigger, you'll see the whole cage shifting backwards. You want to be careful with that too. Let's give this a shot. So reassembly. All right, cock it, still functions, reset works, still no safety. Shit, I got a lot to go. At this point, it'd probably be wise if you mark it in some way, shape, or form so you can get an idea. Either way, you just kind of have to keep doing that till you get close to it. Marking it in whatever way you can probably would help, but it's really up to you what you'd use. Just go slow, take your time, and if you want to avoid the sear disassembly, just do the safety, but again, the sear is the cheapest one. Not to mention that if you really just hate this whole thing, you can buy a Cajun Gun Works adjustable sear and don't even have to worry about it. You just adjust it to where it's supposed to go, and that's it. All right, when we come back to the video, this will be fixed. Okay. So after about, seems like probably 15 disassemblies and reassemblies, it's good to go. I can now enter safety with it in single action, hammer cock. You can see a little bit of play, but it does not disengage no matter what you do. All right, so at this point, I just didn't want to bore you guys to death, so I just decided to put it back together. And I will be showing what the trigger pull was like once this is done, but for now, just enjoy those nice blue lock grips being installed. I've already got an O-ring in there. Oh my God. Look at that reset. Now, this gun was extremely broken in from the get-go, so let's put it in half cock. And that polishing on the hammer definitely helped. So where is it? Here it is. So let's do it in half cock, double action. 8 pounds. Let's do it again. Let's do it like the Carbo guys do it. Put it in half cock. £8, close to it. Definitely changed a little bit. A little under 8 pounds now. I haven't added any oil. Sure, once I add oil to it, it'll be a lot better. All right, single action. Three point 3.25 pounds. Yep, 3.2 pounds again. Yeah, that's about it. You converted standard CZ75 or SP01 into a shadow for about $75, including shipping. That's about it.
All right, so that was the end of part 2. And as you saw, it is a very, very tedious process. And it took hours to complete just to be able to get that sear perfect. And you have to get it perfect because the engagement of the hammer is substantially smaller than the original CZ75 hammer. So therefore, it is a lot less forgiving if you screw up. However, we managed to accomplish this without actually overshooting what we were doing. So I am perfectly okay to keep my sear until it wears out, at which point I will replace it with a Cajun Gunworks because I refuse to do this again. Nonetheless, if you saw this video and you again want to run this in USPSA production, IDPA or IPSC, I would highly suggest you watch my Cajun Gunworks short reset system install. That'll combine both the shadow conversion and the short reset system to give you what you need to know and what you need to perform in order to improve your trigger pull greatly. Now, right off the bat, when I did the shadow conversion, my single action trigger pull was at 3.25 pounds, and I believe double action was at 8, if I'm not mistaken. The video will show exactly what I got. And just to inform you as well, if you do the short reset system, even with this hammer, with the Cajun Gunworks springs instead of CZ Custom springs, the single action will be at 3.5 pounds, so there's not that much of a difference. The reset is a little bit longer, which is what you really gain from the shadow conversion. The reset is just amazing with the shadow, and that's just what it is. You can't get around it. And the double action is at 8 pounds with the short reset system. Nonetheless, the end result, I believe, was amazing with the shadow conversion, and I highly recommend it to anybody out there that's either just plinking or actually wants to go into competition shooting in USPSA, as I believe Limited 10 does allow this modification, so you don't have to just dump all the money at once into a shadow. You can piece it together slowly as you go, really making sure that what you're doing is what you actually want. Of course, if you're just bored and you have CZ75 and you just want to modify it for no reason, like me, then just go ahead and do this. $75? Really, that's not much. That's even cheaper than the majority of Glock trigger kits, so you're not really losing much and you're gaining a whole lot as long as you get the thumb safety right. If you don't, you could potentially have an accidental discharge, so pay attention to what you're doing, because if you remove that firing pin block safety, you're 100% dependent on either your gun being in double action or being on safe. So don't accidentally remove both safeties. You're just trying to remove one. So if you're not confident with modifying or fitting your sear, do not do it. Buy a Cajun Gunworks adjustable sear, or just say screw the whole idea and take it to your gunsmith. So make sure you know what you're doing, is that I am not responsible for whatever happens to you if you attempt this. So go ahead and hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you guys later.